Let me begin with this.
Today on Eric Scott Talks a Lot, happy Thanksgiving. We have Mr. Robert Ott to give us one of the most inspirational stories of all time. Hello, everybody. Eric Scott Talks a Lot right here. Random and Reckless Entertainment brings us this program along with Brainstar Media. Use your brain, be a brainstar. I am very excited, Randy, today because I have a gentleman who has lived 1,000 lives on the program. He has so much interesting stuff to say. We've been trying to put this together. We had to cancel it at one point, but we got it together. Robert Ott, how you doing, brother?
Alive and kicking, my brother.
I love it. I love it. So you are a man of so many talents, and you have been through so many experiences that we could not possibly cover it in one podcast, okay? But I think that your story is so empowering and something that is needing to be heard around the world. So why don't you start out and tell me who you are, what you got going on, and lead into that fate moment.
Now, I got to tell you right now, before we get into that, Eric Scott, one of the things I couldn't help but to pay attention to and notice is your name, Eric Scott.
Right.
And it was very interesting. My father never made many wise decisions in his life, in general.
Okay.
But one good thing he did is tell my mom there's no way that we're going to name our son Scott.
Right.
Because my last name is Ott.
Right. Scott Ott?
Yes. And I'm thinking in elementary school, what the hell would have happened? Junior high school, elementary school, And so anyway, that's part one I wanted to share with you right there. Mm-hmm. Part two is a gentleman in junior high school. He used to say to me whenever he walked up to me, he could never say Robert or Bob, Bobby. He only could call me Lot. Not Ott, but Lot.
Okay.
He'd say, Lot, how you doing, Lot? And I also tune that in with you because it's Eric Scott's a lot.
Yeah.
and I'm telling you, I mean, you're hitting me from every angle here, and you're bringing nostalgia out of the old chest that needs a lot of dusting.
I love it.
But I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. You know what I want to share with you real quick is, I did my grad work over in Philly, and only in Philly, and you're from New Jersey.
South Jersey, absolutely.
South Jersey, I get called Arik.
Really?
Oh yeah. You just said it. You said Arik. You did.
Eric?
Yes.
It's Eric. It's Eric. Is Eric Eric?
Well, you're fixing it now. You're fixing it. You said it earlier. We got it on tape.
Oh, I didn't see it. All right. Well, anyway.
The recording doesn't lie.
The recording doesn't lie.
Bring in the clown. Yeah, I hear you. But anyway, whatever our talk is.
No, I love it.
I look at us because I look at the Philadelphia. We call that area the Delaware Valley, by the way.
Okay.
Northern Delaware, southern Jersey, and around the Philadelphia area is the Delaware Valley.
Delaware Valley.
That's what the radio stations cover. That's what the TV Action News. Move closer to the world, my friends. That's the song for Action News. All that shit. And that's all, covers the northern Delaware, southern Jersey, and around the Philadelphia area.
Right.
So anyway, that's it. That's the Delaware Valley. But that's just born and raised, and flowing into what we were talking about. It's amazing, New Jersey, how many well-known movie stars and business people and either come from there originally and or still live there.
Right.
And if there's a people that have that passion of being able to get in a car and go to New York, in a matter of a half hour, 40 minutes, you're in New York.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're in Philadelphia. Next thing you know, you're in Washington, D.C.
I love it.
They like being tight in there. They can go anywhere in the world they want. And I'm going to tell you something. There is nothing like Jersey boardwalks.
All right.
I want to tell you something. There's nothing like the delicatessens in New Jersey.
Where can I get a veal parm hoagie? Not over here.
Nah, people don't even know what the fuck you're talking about over here.
I know.
It's just a waste of time. I'm telling you what, I can't believe I'm not doing commercials for anxiety pills on TV. It's just, this place just gives me, my nerves just shook up just thinking about it. So anyway, I was born in South Jersey, West Jersey Hospital, a little city called Camden, of course. Camden is the none other capital of Camden County. Mm-hmm. And Camden County is a very busy county and everything. And I'm from there. I mean, there's a lot of love in Camden County. Some really special, good people in my life that I think about every single day. Every hour, every minute. There's people in my life that mean so much, and I really wished I was able to establish and get back on my feet again in a location that was a little bit closer than how far on the other side of the country I am now. But you know what? Things happen for a reason in life, and sometimes you understand, sometimes you can take a good guess, or sometimes neither.
Right.
But it is what it is, and I continue to move forward.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's how it is. So growing up in southern New Jersey, I was born July 9th, 1969, West Jersey Hospital, right off of Mount Ephraim Avenue, and in the city of Camden. It was my mother. The next thing I remember as a baby is I know when I was born on my mother's best friend's birthday, Maureen. It was her birthday, July 9th. That's when I was born. And Maureen's a very, very special woman in my life who just passed away this January.
I'm sorry to hear that.
In the midst of everything going on. It's been crazy. So much going on. But anyway, I was born on her birthday. My dad was nowhere to be found when I was born, of course. He's right on schedule.
Right. Same with mine.
The next thing you know, I heard that my mother wrapped blankets around me, keep me nice and warm when I was a baby, picked me up, and my dad was laying on the sofa on heroin. He was knocked out unconscious, and she walked 2 miles to payphone, called her cousin who came and got her, and never turned back again. So,
right.
You know, they were married for about a year, and before that came to an end. So I grew up with her mother, and my grandmother Nan, her mother, and it was the three of us, and you know, there's a lot more to it than that. I had my sister Angela involved for a long time. I love her. It's my dad's oldest daughter, and you know, and we're a tight little family. You know, loving. We hug each other. You know, it was good stuff. And my mother was an extremely hard worker. One of the things to this day that I look back and I really wish my mother would have spent more time taking care of herself.
Right.
She was number two always. She'd be the one sleeping on the sofa when me and the grandmother would have a room.
She'd eat the burnt toast.
Yeah. Anyway, but my mother loved her to death, and you know, I'm thinking about her while I'm sharing my journey with you right now. So, anyway, it's all good stuff. I was very insecure as a young child. I didn't really have a dad, so to speak, and it was it wasn't long before going back to Maureen. My mom's best friend, Maureen's family became like a family to me, Maureen's mother and father, and I couldn't say their names. So Gloria, I called her Gogi, and Bernard Sr., I called him Daddy Byrne. And that was the name of my grandparents that were not by blood, but they became the family, and Maureen's brother was Bernie. And it was during that time they would teach me boxing and everything. So I thought that was cool, and that kind of gave me a little uplift and things. And
so is that where you got into martial arts?
Well, that's what I was getting to, and that's kind of what was leading that way for a little bit, you know. By the time I was 5 years old, 6 years old, my mom was dating a gentleman, and he took us to the movies, and sure enough, it was martial art movies. Never seen anything like it before in my life. By the time I left there, I knew where I wanted my life to go, and so it was amazing. That was the kickoff to the ball, and slowly but surely, I got my first uniform at 6, and started learning all these techniques. He moved on, and life continued on for a while, and I remember. We were having a good time. I was living in Pine Hill, New Jersey, and we moved to a townhouse. And sure enough, we're having a party out in the woods, a bonfire. You know, you're young kids. These are cool, drinking beer, whatever you're doing. All of a sudden, this man, he lived in a townhouse development, came out of nowhere. He was wearing a pair of sandals, and he was drinking something in a brown bag. He had a big hat on. All of a sudden, he's just hanging out by the fire with us.
Right.
Like, where the fuck this dude come? What was this? And everybody, they kind of knew who he was, say, hey, how you doing there? No one was sure how to act or what to do, whatever. I just couldn't get my eyes off the guy. It was amazing. And next thing you know, the summer comes around. We're at the pool. And this dude is on the edge of the diving board. It's him. And I'm sitting lounging and watching this guy. He brings his toes to the end, and he's facing forward, so his back is to the water.
Right.
And this dude jumps up in the air and does magical Marvel comic maneuvers.
Right.
I've never seen anything like it. Just flying everywhere, everything. Goes into the water with hardly any splash. Comes up out of the water. And I know this is hard to explain verbally, so I'm not even going to get in it, but I'm just telling you right now. And then he began to float. From the bottom of his heels, hands all the way out, this dude floated all the way. I could not do it no matter what I tried in my life. He floated for about a half hour. Gets up, does a handspring on the concrete, sits down and relaxes and catches some sun. I said, holy shit, this is something else. About 3 weeks later, we see a sign, gets mailed to us, to everybody here, and it's martial art classes starting this Saturday at the Recreation Center.
Gotcha.
And that was it. I started there, and it was Korean martial arts, and it became my life.
Korean martial arts, right?
Yes.
So Hapkido or what kind of stuff?
So I first started in what's called Tae Sudo Chung Dukwan.
Okay.
Chung Dukwan was the Blue Wave School family.
Gotcha.
Tae Sudo was the name of the martial art. There was many different things called similar words like Tae Sudo with 9 different Kwan families. And that all existed until the word Taekwondo was created.
Right.
Then Taekwondo was created, and it all fell under that. Some of the old schools still today go by the old names, but most are all just Taekwondo now.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I started in, and continued on for many years. During the years, it built up my confidence, my self-esteem. I started, being a young man and feeling good about who I was and what I was, and doing better in school and making sure, I took care of myself. I looked good. I, presented myself how I shook hands. It did so many things for me.
It's really good.
It built me up so much, man.
Right.
I competed.
Discipline, the food for the soul, right?
Discipline is freedom, my friend.
That's right.
It is unbelievable. I remember when I was a blue belt, I went down the shore and Ocean City, New Jersey, and I competed for the AAU Taekwondo Championships. Because what was happening simultaneously in the background, Taekwondo was becoming an Olympic sport.
Oh.
So I competed in the Junior Olympics, sponsored by Sears, I remember, and I competed. And after 3 fights, I won the gold medal, and I did it 2 years in a row. And I had no idea who and what I was anymore. It was a whole different thing I never would have thought. And, it brought light that I couldn't ever imagine.
Right.
Years went by.
What year is this?
This is going from 1980 to 1983, okay. 84.
So,
by the time
So 84 was L.A., right?
What's that?
What? No. So what? The gold medal in the Olympics?
Yeah, the gold medal in the Junior Olympics.
Junior Olympics.
Yeah,
right.
For the state of New Jersey.
For the state of New Jersey.
Yes.
I gotcha.
So the next thing following that is I was accepted to go compete in Florida at the National.
Gotcha.
And I chose not to go.
Okay.
I felt like I had more than I needed to do.
Okay.
Following that, I earned my black belt under him. I won the Fight for Cancer Championships. I won the Northeast Pocono Championships. And I just competed. We started doing seminars. I'm sorry. We started doing demonstrations in front of people and everything. Like I said, the confidence kept building and feeling good. And I had no idea how much that was going to help me in my life.
Right.
I really didn't.
It really set the blueprint?
Yeah, it certainly did. So, anyway, I earned my first degree black belt in 85. And I continued studying. But it got to the point where I needed to break free more and more. I remember reading Taekwondo Times magazine, and there was a advertisement in the back about schools in the general area, and about an hour from where I lived, there was a picture of his head, and his name is Grandmaster Goche Tyuk from Korea. And I drove out there with my girlfriend, and the school was so unbelievable. It was an industrial building. It was so big. It was so huge. I met it. I showed him my certification, and I started right there. I earned my first degree black belt under him. 2 years later, second degree, and then after that, advanced second degree.
Wow.
I ended up being the chief instructor and office manager for his school for 2 years. We did sales, marketing. In the Dowling directory, we spent $12,000 a month in the Dowling directory and $15,000 a month in the Yellow Pages.
Right.
For all the counties and areas all around there. We were on cable TV commercials. We were huge.
Wow.
And it taught me everything.
Yeah.
And we continued to do a lot of demonstrations. It continued to build my confidence in teaching and being in front of people. And it was an hour each way. It was 6 days a week. And eventually I got tired. My relationship, my love was starting to struggle. And, I loved her, and I just wanted to kind of rebuild things. And I made a big step, and I decided to bow out and went back to New Jersey. And Grandmaster Go was not very happy about it. It was a tough one. He was like a father to me.
Right.
He was like a father to me, and it was really, really tough. Well, about a year after I got back to Jersey, I opened my own school called the Traditional Martial Arts Institute.
Okay.
During that time, while in the later years with me at Grandmaster Go, and in that year between that, I started studying Kuksuruan and Hallangdo and Hapkido, Subakdo, Judo, and these are Korean martial arts. I began to realize that Taekwondo is not a martial art when you go to Korea.
Right.
It's a sport. It's their baseball.
Yeah.
And I wanted deep. And that's when I began to follow and study when those individuals would be seminars anywhere in the country. I would travel to go there. And that I did. And it was the most incredible opening experience to my mind and everything to get so deep into joint locks, takedowns, pressure points, body throws, key breathing, meditation, extensions to the body. It didn't matter. We got into it. And it was just so enlightening and such a strong boost it was. And I opened my school up, and I was the only Hapkido school in the Delaware Valley. It was successful. People were coming left and right. I had martial arts that were already, martial arts already, but they would travel an hour or two to get to my school because you couldn't find Hapkido anywhere.
Well, yeah, and my understanding is Hapkido is largely defensive art, correct?
No, not at all.
No, not at all? It's an offensive art as well?
No, absolutely, it's offensive.
Okay.
Dojinim Jihan who have my
You're
highest
wrong, Eric. You're wrong.
certification.
Well, fucking mark that down because it never happens.
It's almost...
Should be happy that I even know Hapkido is a Korean art.
You know what? He's reaching around. It's all right, man. He's doing his best here. I'll tell you what. You got to see the Bruce Lee movie, Game of Death. When he's going up the tower, Game of Death, one of the people he fights is Dojinim Jihan.
Okay.
Dojinim Jihan is the founder of modern Hapkido.
Okay.
His instructor was Yang Sul Choi, who developed Hapkido after Japan released all the Korean people back. Japan took over Korea for many years. Yang Sul Choi's job when he went to Japan was to be the partner of Mori Yoshiba, who was learning under his father, Takeda. Mori Yoshiba is the founder of Aikido.
Aikido,
Japanese
sword art.
Right. No sword.
Well, yeah,
Aikido.
But the techniques
Another
were
strike, Eric.
No, the techniques were to
Aikido's-
defend. Aikido was created. Am I not correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Was to be able to defend yourself if you lost your sword in battle. Am I right?
I won't argue that. If you lost your sword in battle, you better do something. Yeah.
Okay, it's a half. You get a half.
I want to keep this interview positive, people.
No.
So anyway, we got things going on. So Yang Sul Choi, as a partner, as we trained, when he went back to Korea, that's when started Hapkido. Jihan his first student, sat there and learned it all, and he brought with him Taekyun that he learned. Taekyun is how all the kicks come from in Korean in the days, and it extends so much, everything from rock throwing. I mean, it gets into such deep archery.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Rock throwing.
The Korea used to be 3 dynasties, Shilla, Pakji, Goguryeo, and the smallest one, Shilla, had what's called the Halang, the Flowering Warriors. They were trained in poetry, music, art. They were trained in everything you could imagine, including the Mudo, martial arts. And as deep as it gets, that's what they did. They were the United Flowering Warrior. And they finally got to a point where they're going to go out to war to bring everything to one dynasty. And they realize what they're missing is they're missing the core inside, the who, why, and what we are. So they travel to the top of the mountains to meet Wankwang Babsa Samdosa. All right, he's a monk at the top of the mountains. And they said to him, what is our direction? And he said, you must have the Harlanda OK, the 5 tenets. Loyal to your nation, obedient to your parents, be honorable to your friends, never retreat in battle, and make a just kill. And with that, you need the Harlando Kyohun, the 9 virtues: inhumanity, oi justice, yea courtesy, ji wisdom, sin trust, sun goodness, duck virtue, chung loyalty, young courage.
Wow.
This is what builds the Harlangdo. They returned back, and the smallest dynasty, Shilla, took over the whole rest of Korea. And for many, many centuries, they were in peace and everything. That is where all this begins with Korean martial arts.
Wow.
So, in any case, I studied under Dojinim Jihan, who was in the movie Bruce Lee, Game of Death, when he was going up the tower. He was one of the people he fought. Jihan, to my understanding, is now in the Arizona area currently. I have a 7th Dan black belt, Chill Dan black belt under him. And I have an honorary black belt from another organization in South Korea.
Wow.
So,
what an amazing amount
it was
of
a
work.
way of my life and everything.
Right.
It was everything. I was in very good shape. I was very healthy. I was very strong. The only thing that was a struggle for me was my love. I was missing her. We had broken up, and it was tough. It was really, really tough. And, there was things that happened in my life before her, but she was that, core thing. She helped bring me to that new level. And so that's something I was struggling for. I was supposed to go up to Michigan and compete in a tournament and test for my new rank. And it was a big, huge event once a year. People came from Korea to attend. And I was getting ready for that. And I'll never forget, I was working out. I was by myself. No other students were there. It was the fall season. And I was looking out the window, and the leaves were coming down. And I remember, it's enough of this, I said. And I went and changed. And getting ready to lock the door, I bowed to my flags, locked the door, got in my car, and there was a beautiful song that came on. It was a song called Never Surrender by Corey Hart.
Never surrender.
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember that coming on. Picked up my buddy Greg on the way home, went back to the house, and took a shower and everything. And me and Greg had some pizza. It's time to take him home, and at the last second, I really, wanted to see if Karen was home or not. I didn't talk about it earlier, but Karen was my next door neighbor. Our backyard's connected. So I was taking Greg home. Instead of hanging a right, I hung a left to loop around. I could go the long way, no big deal. I did it, and her car was not there. She was still at college. I don't know what it was. I got to the end of the street, and I said, let's go visit my dad. So my dad in my life, him and I started getting back in touch with each other when I became older, and, I was this handsome young kid. My dad was a huge Italian, heavy-set meatball. And, that's who he was. I weighed 195 pounds without an ounce of fat on me, blonde hair, and that's who I was. People didn't even believe that we were father and son. It just, nothing added up like that.
Right.
But he loved showing me off, and he was what he was. He was managing go-go bars in the Admiralson Boulevard, right? None other than back in Camden. And anyway, I went to go visit with Greg. We get there, parked right in the front, and go in there, open the door. My dad sees me across the other side of the bar, and he's like, "Oh man, my son," like as if like a humorous joke, like, "Oh, what's he gonna do with his son?" When the fact is, he loved every time I showed up there. You know, that's how he was. And so talking to some people, some friends. Greg went one direction, I went the other, and Greg had his martial arts jacket on that represented our school, and next thing I know, one of the go-go dancers are dancing with them. I'm like, oh, fuck. Right. This is what I want the children to, my martial arts school to see, that we go to.
Oh, I get it. So you're in the club.
Yeah. I'm now in this club now.
Right,
we're hanging out. It's like, Anyway, we're having a good time, and, I've got to open up the school come tomorrow morning for Saturday classes and there, and this. All of a sudden, my dad whistles for me to, come here and join him. So I come over. Him and two bouncers and my dad and me are walking outside, and he just wanted some manpower. A bachelor party just showed up, and we're carding them all and getting some money and letting them in. So anyway, that's what we're doing. Other bouncers go in, just me and my dad, and there's two guys left. And these two guys won't look you eye to eye. And I felt something about these two guys. I could feel it. I wasn't sure, but I could feel something. Something wasn't right. It wouldn't look you eye to eye, and I could feel it. And I also could feel that, it did not like me. There's something about me. It didn't like me. But anyway, after my dad gives them a hard time, and they still didn't have any ID, he still let them in. So they're in. It's done. We go back in. I'm talking to a female. And next thing you know, one of those two guys shows up in between us. And she said, "I'm with him, sir. Can you leave us alone?" And I said, "My friend, she's with me." And the guy says, "Yeah, what are you going to do about it, And, that stuff starts. She turns around and she goes to the back, And I put on my jacket. I said, my friend, you had a little bit too much to drink, you know? And then I started walking to the other bar where my buddy was. And as I'm walking, turning around, he pushes me from behind. And that's where all of what I'm about to tell you begins. That's where it all begins. And I'm going to tell you now what I can tell you.
Okay.
When people go through a lot of traumatic things, there's a lot during that last 2 minutes you don't remember. I remember all of a sudden my dad appears out of nowhere and he's pushing me out the door. And Bobby, we're going to go fuck this guy up. Bobby, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You know, some racial words he said and everything. This is my dad saying this. Bouncer's pushing the other guy out the door.
Right.
It's at this point I realized that there's no, it's not going to, there's no way to get out of this. In martial arts, your first thing is to avoid any of this.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm good at that. I don't, you know, I don't like getting my hands dirty, you know? And, but there was no way. We made it through the first door, we're into the foyer, payphone, cigarette machine. The next door, of course, goes out into the parking lot. This gentleman was a tall, lanky guy, okay? And I'm in great, fantastic shape. I'm getting ready to go test. I felt that out in the parking lot would give him too much room. Okay? You know, when you study martial arts for decades and decades, you begin to learn how everything is. All right? You've got Shingang, the way of the mind. Negang, the way of the body. You've got Weigang, the way of the key energy inside. And then, of course, you have Mugigang, the extensions of the body. That's everything around you, from a weapon in your hand to a wall. And that's what I wanted. I wanted the walls. And so I broke free, and that's where we fought, right there, in the foyer. Now, I want to tell you, there was one other thing that was a challenge in my mind while I'm fighting this guy. The challenge is, there are some people in life that can be 1 inch tall, weak, but you look them in the eye and you can tell they don't care if they're alive or dead. They're the most dangerous people you're ever going to come and face.
Right.
And I knew he was one of them. We broke free and we fought. The Hwarang inside of me came out and I did everything I possibly could. Here's what I do remember. I have his back to the wall. My right leg goes between his two legs, up around between his calf, back of his calf, and Achilles, and I swept his legs out from underneath him. I dropped down my knee into his fucking nuts, and I grab his fucking left collar while my right hand is punching him. Over and over and over and over and over again. While I grab his collar and my right hand is punching him, I'm got his collar and I'm bringing his collar to me while I'm punching. I'm doing both. We call that and yang, or in Chinese yin and yang. I'm whacking him like there's no tomorrow because I'm realizing this guy's going to kill me. That's what I'm realizing. Somehow I don't remember anything else until next thing you know, I'm standing up, tucking my shirt in, and Greg, who I went with, is in front of me. The guy was gone. I was tucking my shirt in.
That was it for now, right?
Next thing you know, the door cracks open. I'm tucking my shirt in. The man reaches through with a hand, with a gun to the end, pulls the trigger, and that's when my life changed. October 6, 1990, at around 12:38 in the morning / evening. That was it.
Wow.
That was it, yeah.
And so you're the man you beat up or had this altercation with. It was his friend who came back in, or did he leave and he came back in?
Well, that was an argument in court.
Okay.
That was an argument in court. You know what I mean? That was an argument in court.
And well, I guess I'm just trying to figure out of the two men who brandished the gun, who pulled the gun.
Yeah, So, you know, it went to court and all this other stuff happened. But before we get to that, I'm laying there, according to all the witnesses, and I'm laying there in a pool of blood. Greg's standing there. He's just not realizing what's happened. It happened so fast. He thought it was a firecracker. And, you know, next thing you know, ambulance. In Camden is another hospital. I said West Jersey where I was born, but there's another hospital in Camden. There's a few other ones.
Are you conscious during this time?
No, I'm not. But I'm telling you what witnesses told me.
Right.
And there's a trauma center like Harborview. It's called Cooper Trauma Center.
Okay.
And I went and they picked me up there and got me there right away. And I sat there for 17 hours, 18 hours, and the neurosurgeons who were there said, "There's nothing we can do. He's not going to make it."
And you'd been hit in the head, correct?
Apparently the man shot me on the left side of my skull with a gun. The bullet entered the left part of the skull, went through the left temporal lobe of the brain. As it traveled, destroyed my ability to taste and smell, damaged the nerves to the left eye, and blew out the right eye. There was nothing they could do. I was going to die. My family, there was over 200 people who showed up for those Saturday and Sunday at Cooper Trauma Center. People came from all over. And it was the most stunning thing that happened to many people. I wasn't the only victim. Many people were hurt with what happened.
For sure.
And my mother, when she got the call that night, all she kept saying over and over again is she tried to get the nurse to explain, and the nurse could not explain what the man looks like because I'm bandaged up everywhere. And my head is bigger than 2 watermelons. And she couldn't explain it. And my mom just prayed it was my dad. She prayed and prayed and prayed it was my dad. She was leaning against the wall in the trauma center. And all of a sudden, my dad came in the doors.
Right.
My mom fell to the floor and couldn't stop crying. When she finally got up, she ran to a part of the hospital that has a little place where you pray. And she just prayed. And, that was what that was about. Finally, they got my mom to go home, and they're going to call her when they're going to pull the plug. My mother makes it home to talk to my grandmother. And my mom's home for literally 3 minutes when the phone rings. My mom screams, "Don't answer that phone to anybody." And finally, she's realizing she's got to answer that phone.
Right.
She picks up the phone, and a woman by the name of Fran Orth says, "Ann, my name is Fran Orth. I just came on a new shift. I lifted your son's head up and did some things that they did not do, and I don't know why they didn't do it. I contacted Dr. Luis Cervantes, one of the most well-known neurosurgeons who gets his hands in things that other doctors don't want to touch. I think we're going to try to save your son's life, if you're okay with this."
Wow.
She puts Dr. Cervantes on the phone. He's from Portugal. And he says to my mother, "I got no guarantees. But, you got to let me know in the next 10 minutes if you want me to save your son's life and give it a shot." She hung up the phone. My mom called New York, L.A., all the top people around the country in neurosurgery. And they said, if you got Dr. Luis Cervantes, you're not going to get anybody better.
Right.
And she called back and gave a thumbs up, and they went to work cleaning up the side of my skull, cleaning up all this, that, and this, and sewing the one eye shut, and just all kind of removing my right eye. That eye's gone. Threw that in the trash, and just this, that, and this, that, and next thing you know, my mom's talking to the anesthesiologist, and he's asking her about me, and she says, "What's your son doing?" She says, "Well, he teaches martial arts for a living." She says, "Well, that must be the reason why his blood pressure never changed during all this time."
Wow.
And she said, "I want you to know," he said to her, "I want you to go home and get some rest. Your son's going to be out unconscious for at least a day or two following this surgery. Okay?" He says, "Okay," and a period at the end. The double doors open up. They're wheeling me back into the room. I'm sitting straight up screaming for my mother. So much for me being unconscious.
Right.
So, there's a million little stories I can share with you, man. And that's, there are millions. I'll just leave it at this. A month later, I just got home, and I ended up so hot you could have fried an egg on me. And then I ended up throwing up. I ended up with meningitis. I didn't want to go back to hospital. They fought with me. I finally did. I finally signed the paperwork. And I spent a week there before they figured out what type of meningitis it was. They figured it out. They opened my skull up the top from left to right. All right, they then went down to my left area, my stomach, opened up that, took tissue out, took my face and pulled my whole face down, opened up so the brain was there, patched the tissue to the brain where the bullet went through, then actually realigned the brain. The brain was crooked.
Fuck.
Realigned the brain and then put me back together again. And
wow.
Jesus
and
Christ.
What a fucking miracle.
And that's just, that's what happened, man. That's what happened. And there's so much more and so many steps and so many things and so much pain and so much crying and so much. It took so much out of me. I mean, it took 10 years out of my life. And somehow, I just kept believing and kept believing. I kept believing. Christmas came and went. And we had an appointment at Wills Eye Hospital. In Center City, Philadelphia is Wills Eye Hospital, one of the top 5 hospitals in the world for eyes. And I had an appointment there, and in my mind, I was going to get my eyesight back there.
Right.
That was it, period. I'm going to get my eyesight back there. I am. And I finally got my appointment, and there was a new field that came about. It was a new field called neuro-ophthalmology. I went to the neuro-ophthalmologist. He only accepted cash. I believe it was $300 or $500, one of the two, first visit. And he had 2 other students learning under him. I was there for about 3 hours. Test after test after test. Finally, the neurosurgeon came back in, put his left hand on my right shoulder, and he said, "Robert, we don't have the technology to be able to bring your eyesight back." And I broke down crying.
I bet.
I broke down crying.
Yeah.
I broke down crying. I was somebody who loved going running, and I was somebody who loved getting on a bike, or someone who loved on the beach, and somebody who would jump up in the air and do kicks and everywhere. I was somebody I could look my girlfriend in her eyes, and we could say 1,000 things to each other.
Without one word being said.
Without one word being said. I was somebody who loved what he saw. I was somebody who wanted to help others. And now I'm completely blind, with no hope, in need of help from others. And it didn't happen slowly. It happened like a flick of a light switch.
Right.
It was some tough years, it was some tough time. We had no money. We had donations, a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there. We didn't have any money.
Right.
It's my mom applied for Social Security for me and filled out paperwork for the Innocent Victims of Violent Crimes Compensation Board. And every state has a program like that. That took me 3 years because in the beginning they denied me as a victim. New Jersey has so many victims that they just deny it in the beginning. 50% of the people don't know any better and just give up.
Right.
I did all that, and all I got was a measly $25,000, which if anybody knows anything about money, that ain't piss.
No.
So half of it went to my medical bills, which, the medical bills were unbelievable. And being blind and moving on with life is what I had to do. It wasn't cheap. We had no money. It wasn't easy. I was ashamed of myself. I was embarrassed to be in front of my students and all this. And one day there was a knock at my door. And it was my first martial arts instructor, Richard Kenvin. Now, my school was still open. All my fellow martial arts, Grandmaster Ken McKenzie and others, Bill Billingham, were keeping the school going. My friends in Pennsylvania would drive over and help the school. But I wasn't there. I was embarrassed to go back to my school. I don't want anybody to see me. The children. I was the person they looked up to.
Right.
Instead, I got shot in a go-go bar.
Gotcha.
Finally, I get a knock on the door. It's Richard Kenvin. He comes in. We sit out in the kitchen. And we talked, and we talked, and we talked, and we talked. And finally, he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Bobby, you need to put your uniform back on, and you need to go back to your school.
Right.
He left, and I was in the bed. I just didn't know what to say or do. I was laying in the bed, tired and weak. And my mom came in, sat next to me on the bed, and she said, what's going on? How you feeling? I said, Mom, I don't know how Richard Kevin, he wants to go back to my school. I just don't know how I can do that. I don't know how I can be in front of my students, these people, the parents and everybody, people my age and older who look up to me. How can I do this?
What's Mom say?
She's quiet. She's quiet. And then she says, puts her hand on me and says, Bobby, the more you keep laying in this bed, the more days and time goes by that you don't go back to your school, each moment that it continues this way, you're letting the man continue to win who did this to you. And that's when my life changed. That's when
that fighter reemerged.
The light started coming again. The sound of the chimes started, music in the background. I'm not going to say it was like Rocky going up the Art Museum steps, but it was definitely back in saddle again. Fight the good fight. Every moment, every minute, fight the good fight. You know, it's your own way. And that's how my life went on. I went to South Pennsylvania, Chester City, and studied at a school for the blind there and learned how to walk with my cane and learned how to be on the keyboard and this and that. I had ups and downs where I yelled at the instructors or this people or that. And I remember they're having me playing with blocks. I said one day after like the third or fourth day I'm playing with blocks, I said, what the fuck you got me playing with blocks for? You got to be kidding me.
Right.
Hey, so we're just checking out to see how you're mentally. Oh, yeah, this is helping mentally? This is really helping me mentally.
Right.
Really?
Right.
Fuck off. I threw the blocks over and I walked out of there, you know?
Yeah.
Then there was another class. There was another class where these two people, she had her husband there because he had nothing better to do. He was blind. And she was blind and worked there. And, you know, I have to learn how to fold clothes. And I knew I'd have to learn how to make a burger. I did. I folded clothes in like a second. I'm like, what the fuck's the big deal?
Right.
Yeah, I can jerk off still.
The most important part.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck's the big deal here? I don't understand. And I got angry at that too, and I walked out on them.
Right.
But the keyboard, the computer stuff, all, and walking with the cane, learning how to do that was what I finally finished on and focused on. I remember I had my last test with the cane. Let me tell you about Chester.
Okay.
Chester, the city of Chester, South Philadelphia.
Oh.
That's a poor neighborhood.
It's a very tough place.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Okay. Here I am just getting done handling. I'm not done, but I'm still a guy who's trying to recover from getting shot in the head with a gun.
You have some PTSD walking around right there.
So anyway, I had to hang a left, which I did. I get to the four-way intersection, which that intersection's got a story, but I'll save that for another day. Go through the four-way intersection, go down to a 5-point intersection, cross different islands, where there's a sign that I also hit my face on during my training months. But I go through that. I then am walking through Widener University, where my love, Karen, is going to college.
Right.
So I'm embarrassed. I'm going to run into her and her friends. I mean, it's unbelievable. I then get to a bus, get on the bus when it arrives, go down to whatever, Route 1 to a mall, walk in the mall, through the parking lot somehow, get to the mall, to a particular store, buy something, and then come fucking back home.
Wow.
I'm tired just fucking telling you about it. It was a lot, man.
Fuck.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
Imagine.
It was a lot. And finally I came back home and, you know, moving forward. And I remember one day my mom and I were driving and she saw in the storefront there a sign that said Center for Independent Living for those with disabilities and challenges. We didn't know. We had no idea what that is or what that is. I had no idea. So we pulled in there and went into the door just to inquire. And a man in a wheelchair comes up to me, and I had to put my hand to his hand because that was his way of shaking because he couldn't move his body.
Okay.
And I shook his hand, and his name was Mike Kennedy. I had no idea in my life that this man in a wheelchair, Mike Kennedy, was going to change my life forever.
Wow.
I had no idea. He ended up with a seminar workshop for people who were disabled that, helping them with the business, work ethics, etc., getting on their feet again. So I showed up for this, and I had Karen drop me off there, and I showed up there, and I was the only blind person there. There was every disability you can imagine. I was the only blind person there.
Right.
Anyway, the last speaker came, and he was with the State Commission for the Blind. So I'm the only one that it even pertains to. So anyway, I listened to him. He talked about the Business Enterprise Program. First time I heard about it, but the more he talked about it, it started clicking. I remember when I had jury duty, there was a blind man running a snack bar on the ground floor, and we had lunch break. I remember in Philadelphia, there was a guy on the subway system that had a newspaper stand. He was blind. And I started thinking in my mind, I wonder if that's a correlation to this.
Right.
So the event was over. Me and the man talked, and that was it. That was that. He's going to come pick me up next week. He's going to drive me around New Jersey to visit all these locations. We spent the entire day doing just that. And I began to realize I saw small locations, big locations, everything. And I began to realize, wow, this isn't necessarily what my goal in life was to be about, but this certainly could be a tool to allow me to obtain money to allow me to get back to who I want to be again.
Right.
So I inquired, filled out the paperwork, and went up to New Brunswick, New Jersey, where I used to compete at Rutgers there in tournaments, and that's where the training school for the New Jersey State Commission for the Blind was. I went there, and I had a 2-week tryout, and I got through that, and next thing you know, I was accepted into the program, and we had a 9-month training program. I lived in the dormitory, and every single day I had to be a suit and tie, and every single day I was neither in the classroom or I was doing on-the-job training at one of the locations. And I did one in Camden at the Camden County Courthouse where I saw a blind man. Sure enough, here I am doing on-the-job training with that guy.
Wow.
And then there was another one in the city of Trenton. And I graduated the program with A's and did great, and that was that. Next thing you know, I realized there was an old rule that they had in the program in New Jersey, which no longer exists now. But the rule said seniority will always win the interview. So it didn't matter. This guy shows up with a Leonard Skinner shirt on, blue jeans, sneakers, and he smells like weed. He's got it, and I don't, if he graduated and he's been in it longer than I have. Even though I'm in a suit and tie and I'm answering and firing off answers to questions left and right.
Right.
He's got it. She's got it. Whatever. Mm-hmm. So that was frustrating.
Hey, yeah. How do you feel about that?
One day there was a knock on my door, and it was my counselor, and he came to drop off a watch that talked. And he's talking. He says, "I got some interesting news for you, Robert." And I'm thinking, what do we got here, brother? What do you got? He says, well, we went to a national convention in Texas, and I met and interacted with people from all over the country, and I was speaking to a woman, and she was saying, how are you doing in the Business Enterprise Program? We said, well, we've got too many blind vendors and not enough locations. She said, that's funny. I'm from Washington State, and we don't have enough blind vendors.
Wow.
What clicked in his mind, of course, right away was me. He figured as a counselor, if he could get rid of me, it would be pluses. But he laughed about it in his mind because it's on the other side of the country.
Right.
I'm blind. No one fucking does that.
Yeah.
So he says to me, I got something for you, Robert. We just had a meeting, this and that. But he told the whole story that I just told you. They're looking for blind vendors in Washington State. And then he started laughing. Ha, Washington State. Get it? Get it? I started laughing with him, and I said, ha, fly me out there and let me check it out, fuckhead. If I don't get on my feet and get out the door and get my life back together again, I'm going to lose my mind.
Fuck, right.
Yeah. Flew out there, spent a week meeting
Man,
blind
you love
vendors,
a challenge, Robert.
everything.
You
Flew
love
out there and just did it. Went on tour, everything from Olympia up to Everett, all over. Checked everything out. Came back home.
What year is this?
This is in 1994.
Okay.
Came back home. Thanksgiving came, went. Christmas came. January, I hugged my family. Gave him a kiss, hugged him again, went into my grandmother Nan's room, the one I loved the most, the one I was most concerned about if I'd ever see her again. I had sat there with a tear going down my eye. I said, Nan, I got to move on. I got to get on my feet. I think I can be a better help to the family on my feet than I can that. And she said, Bobby, you got to do what you got to do. I love you, and I'm going to miss you. Oh, dude, it was fucking tough, man.
Fuck.
Yeah, and she did die, when I moved out here, and it was everything that happened. It was just fucking tough, man.
Right.
These people during the days, the prohibition, the depression, just so many things they went through. It's just crazy. Anyway, I got to the Philadelphia airport and kissed my mom and got on a plane and flew my life out here.
Wow.
And lived in a dormitory in South Seattle, owned by the Lions Club. And I got there on February 1st, and I had until March 13th to get my life together to open this business up, which was located at the Western Regional Center of the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, which overlooks Lake Washington. And I thought I was going to get a lot of help. I did. I got another blind guy and I.
Right.
And we had to find an apartment, open up a bank account, have insurance, registration for the business, Department of Revenue. I had no furniture with me. I had nothing. And I came out here with $500. The good news was my mom mailed my Social Security check to me when it came in a couple days later. And I just took my time and found an apartment on Sandpoint Way, and which is the road that where the federal government location's off of. And I opened up on March 13th, 1995, and the name of the business was called the Modern Day Cafe.
Okay.
And 900 people in the complex, consisted of the National Weather Service, National Marine Fisheries, Hazmat, Alaska Fisheries, Department of Fish and Wildlife, just all of it was there. And I was there for 10 years and rebuilt my life. Wow. And there was an older couple one day that said, Robert, you need to do a seminar, teach martial arts and everything. And I hadn't done it in a couple of years, and it was always there in my heart and everything. And so I sat there, thought about it, and finally I decided to do it. I did it at my cafe in the center there, which is beautiful, overlooking the windows, overlooked Lake Washington. And I donated all the money to the daycare center.
Wow.
And that was my first seminar. Seattle Times showed up, did an article about me, and I was on the front page of the Seattle Times, and I think it was called Alive and Still Kicking.
Right.
And it showed me with the Lake Washington behind me, and me with my cane and my black shirts, this Modern Day Cafe, and I'm there, and that's it. And then next thing you know, Northwest Cable News shows up at my cafe. She says, we want to do a story about you. And you're going to be every half hour for the next 24 hours, your story's going to be Sure enough, they do a story, come back to my house, look at my certificates, everything to make behind the cash register, everything. And next thing you know, I get another call from this, Common Grounds, University Herald, Metropolitan Living, Evening Magazine came and did a huge, big story, which I've been on Evening Magazine twice. And
Wow.
I've been on Como News, I've been on King 5 as well, and Northwest Cable News, and I've been on Philadelphia News as well, and I've been on half a dozen news stations from Idaho and Boise and all around there, because for 7 years I taught the blind children self-defense, and it just all started exploding.
Yeah.
During this time, I met a fantastic woman named Kimberly, and I think about her every day. I hope she's doing good with her life. We made it for 16 years. We have 2 beautiful children that I pretty much raised full-time, so to speak. Savannah's now 19, so she's on her own going to massage therapy school, and Bobby's 14. And, it's been a long journey. I was at NOAA for 10 years. It was my 8th year into it when I went to a program that had special guests that were, they were called, what would you call it? I guess they were business partners. Okay. They were silent business partners, so to speak, training business partners, however you want to do that. And it had to do with the Randolph-Shepard Act for the blind, being able to go after big military contracts. None of the blind vendors in Washington State at the time thought it was possible. I was at a point where I had nothing to lose. I had no children at the time. Well, I'm sorry, I lied to you. I had my daughter Savannah was a baby, but I still had the ability to go after that.
Right.
And so I did. And after 2.5 years in court with Department of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, we won. And I was selected to interview out of 4 other people. I won the interview. And I went from 3 employees at the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration to 833 employees, union workers, for my business that fed Joint Base Lewis McChord. I named my business Certain Victory Food Services Incorporated. Right. Certain Victory in Korean is Pilsung. Certain Victory is what symbolizes my logo in martial arts. And I felt inside that...
Now I understand your email address.
Yes, Pilsung, that's it.
Yeah.
I want the soldiers, young men and women who are fighting for freedom and independence, I want them to have certain victory in their heart and their spirit. I want them to know they have certain victory backing them up. I want them to know they have strength, they have courage, and they've got indomitable spirit within them. They got the Hwarang, the flowering warrior. No different than we had in the Silla Dynasty, no different than I had in getting out of bed after I was shot in the head. Fuck. It was at that time I decided, to write a book. And I titled my book Certain Victory. And it is hardcover, softcover. It's, Kindle, Nook. I've got an audio narrated way in June. And it's, it's been a very successful thing. It's been medicine for me. But as time went by, I realized it's been something that has touched the minds and hearts and spirit of a lot of people. It's given them that strength to turn the page in life during most challenging times. So it's definitely something that's helped me today. The contract at Fort Lewis lasted for 9 years, and by the time that came to an end, I'm sad to say my marriage did as well. And today I'm a single man, and I feed the office building 2 downtown Olympia, which of course we're shut down now because of the corona. Bobby's in high school, Robert James Ott Jr. He's a freshman in high school. My daughter goes to massage therapy school.
Where's Bobby go?
Bobby goes to Olympia High School.
Cool.
Yeah, he's looking at chicks. He's, figuring out life. He's a very smart young man, and I'm very, very proud of Bobby. Every day, I'm very proud of him. My daughter's so beautiful. I miss her so much. I'm so proud of her. I wish I was with her. I really do.
Yeah.
It's been tough.
Yeah.
It's been tough. I don't know what tomorrow's going to be for any of us. I really don't. I made some good money for a while, and that's helped me get by. But that's, money comes and money goes. And there ain't much of that left anymore. It's just trying to figure it out from here and really trying to market my book more. And I think that's a great thing. If I can make a few bucks and share such a story that's touched lives, including mine, then you know what? It's a winner. So that's been a personal thing going on.
Such a powerful story.
Yeah. So, Eric, there you go, buddy.
Fuck, man.
There you go, dude.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. What I'm gathering out of this whole thing is that you were born to fight, bro. And a lot of us need guys like you to be a beacon. You know what I mean?
We all do.
And
we all do.
It's not. We say story. It's a story. You are a fighter. I mean, you were born to fight. Can I ask some tough ones?
I want you to hit me hard. Hit me hard.
Have you forgiven the man who shot you?
The man who shot me 9 months after it happened, on the front page of the paper, my mother read. I was down the shore. She called me. And there was a big, huge article how he was captured by the FBI.
Because he wasn't captured that...
No.
Wow.
He escaped.
He escaped.
He was captured by the FBI 9 months later. They brought him back to the Camden jail. Mm-hmm. And he was now sitting in the jail. And in about a year, he's going to be sentenced. His name was Robert Moore.
Okay.
His name was Robert, just like me. His last name is Moore. And he was my age. He was known for fake names and many crimes for many years. His parents were actually financially stable parents, but they wrote him off many, many years before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they want nothing to do with him. Mm-hmm. So a year goes by. Once again, front page of the newspaper article.
You kind of have to relive it by
Yeah,
you know.
And he was being sentenced. They didn't inquire. They didn't talk to me. They did nothing. They just ready to sentence him. And of course, I went to the sentencing. I went with about 8 letters with me from people who are in law enforcement. Because of martial arts, I interacted a lot with people in the law enforcement who were training to increase their ability for self-defense.
Right.
I had friends of all different levels, and I had fantastic letters with me. But no matter what, he was sentenced to second-degree aggravated assault, eligible for parole in 3.5 years, maximum 10, and minus a year because he spent a year in the county jail, so he's eligible in 2.5 years.
It just doesn't seem fair.
Years went by. I was living here in the Northwest, and I did. He was up for parole again. I was interviewed, by the parole board. I don't think a lot of people know this, but I want to share. When you've got a criminal, the first time they're up for parole, it is based off of what they did. After that, second, third, 15th time, whatever it is, it's based off of what they're doing.
Gotcha.
So they could be taking college classes in jail. They could be training, working out, doing all kinds of shit to look like they're good people. And that's what it's based off of. Mm-hmm. I managed to get him, to stay there about 8 years.
Oh, good.
During the last 2 years, I was at NOAA still, and the parole board called me, and we talked. And I remember one of the guys said to me, he said, well, I got to be honest with you, Robert, you gave him a little bit of a licking. I said, what'd you just say?
Right.
He said, Robert, you during the fight, you gave him a... I said, sir, the man took a gun, shot me in the head to kill me.
Right. That's a
What
big,
are you talking about?
Big fucking difference.
I gave him a licking.
Right.
I gave him a licking because I could see in this guy's eyes that he doesn't care about life.
Right.
I was saving my life. I was saving my life and the lives of many others who, in his future, he'll go to kill. And I didn't want nothing to do with it. I gave him a licking, you say.
Right.
It's amazing. Anyway, it was over and done with. They were going to call me back after they do a hearing with him. A week went by. I heard nothing. My mother calls me. She says, you better go sit down in your office for this. So I go back to the kitchen. I sit down, shut the door. And my mom received a letter in the mail back in Jersey. And it's from the parole board.
Right.
They was letting us know they apologized. A mistake was made. They released him by accident.
Jesus.
So that was about 8 years, give or take. And it was at that time I decided, you know what? It's time for me to move on. Move on, move on, move on.
Yeah.
And in answer to your question...
Because you carry that around.
Yeah, I had to let it go.
Right.
And I had to believe that in life, what you do as a human being is what follows you.
Absolutely.
I have what follows me, and I'm going to move forward to what I want around me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to let this go. It was very interesting. It was right before I had the going away party at NOAA, before I started Fort Lewis. Mm-hmm. It was on the news. A beautiful, beautiful young lady was driving home from work. She just got her bachelor's degree from UW. She was getting ready to go for a master's degree. She was bartending at a big nightclub in downtown Seattle. She was driving home to Renton, and a piece of furniture flew off the back of a U-Haul truck. It went through her windshield and it ripped her whole face off, her eyes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Her name's Maria Federici.
Okay.
A month or two later, I got a call from the State Department of Services of the Blind. You got to understand, during this time, I've had counselors using me as someone to bring their clients to.
Right.
Using me for people who went through a traumatic thing like I did. I remember I had a young man working with me. He got shot in the head too. The difference was he's the one who fired the trigger. I was involved with so many things in the community. I wish I could tell you all of them.
Right.
I did it all.
We're going to be back for sure.
This young lady, her counselor with the State Department of Services of the Blind called me and says, Robert, you should go and talk to the family. It would be a really blessed thing if you could do that. So I did. I went and I met Maria Federici, and it was really, really tough. That poor girl was really, really, really tough.
Right.
I decided I've got to do something, and at that point in time, I had her come to my going-away party at NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Evening Magazine came back again to do another story. Mm-hmm. This time was the blind helping the blind.
Right.
And there I was, my suit and tie, and I gave my 2 number 1 employees both a big trophy, and then I introduced a blind vendor who was going to take over the location, and then I introduced everybody to Maria Federici.
Right.
Which most people knew about the story by then. It was on the news every day.
Right, right.
And at that time, I had a cart come out, and I donated to her a whole entire computer system, you know, from the screen, the computer, to the printer, to scanners, to everything you could imagine, including the software. It goes for about $1,000 that talks. And donated that through myself, my consulting company out of Texas, and other blind vendors who are in the military. So
then all of a sudden you become the gentleman who you met in the wheelchair that changed your life. It comes full circle, and you're now being this mentor for others.
That's why I share with you what Mike Kennedy ended up being for me.
Right. And if you wouldn't have listened to Mom.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
If you wouldn't have listened to Mom, then we wouldn't have got that, you know?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You know?
It wouldn't have been that way, no.
Okay, yeah. So this may sound like, I'm just going to ask this question.
Sure.
This is a tough one. Would you take it back?
I shared to you how I have often shared my story to others.
Right.
And in life, my friend, you will find that your most challenging person that you'll ever come to confront is you.
Absolutely.
And there's a reason why there's a yes and a no, an up and a down, a right and a wrong, in a good and a bad, a man and a woman. In the Asian philosophies, Chinese, they call it yin and yang, and Korean it's called and yang, which translates to constant cohesion of all things in the universe.
Duality.
Yes, indeed, sir. Mm-hmm. And duality is purpose in life, direction. You will not find that until you understand duality. Until you understand that. Do you understand? I love my children. Mm-hmm. I love the people I've come to meet here in the Northwest. I love the differences I've done for so many lives. In answer to your question, my friend, I wish I could go back and do it all over, but we know I can't stop now.
Right.
I got to keep going.
Fuck yeah.
I can't stop now. I've got to keep going. Yeah, I have a psychologist from time to time. Yeah, I need to write. Yes, I need to cry sometimes. Yes, I need a cocktail. Yes, every once in a while, I've got to teach somebody makjuluki, choking techniques for samaksu, defense against hand grips, as I pinch the inside of the thigh off. You know, it's you know.
Note to self: piss him off.
Yeah. You know, it just you have to. You know, there's things you need to do. I need to kiss. I need to kiss. I love beautiful women. I love all that passion, and I've been single for a while, and but maybe I needed to be. Maybe I needed to be single. But I'm kind of coming to that point right now where I'm looking to, find that right person again to share life. I figure, life is short. What I got left in time, what goodness is in me and who I am. I think it would be a nice thing to share and give.
You're ready for another chapter.
Yeah, I am. I really am. And so that's something that will happen if it's meant to be. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, Eric, no turning back now, buddy.
I love it. Robert, first of all, I want to invite you back. Okay, I want to talk more about your book, and I want to know some of these, you were talking about veering off and going into these different stories. I just want you to know our door is always open.
Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
my friend. And, that's an important thing. And, goodness brings goodness. And Eric, what you're doing with your show is fantastic. It makes such a difference, brother.
Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that.
And Randy.
I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah. Randy's a whole part of the soul with that,
Randy's everything.
I'm telling you right now, a lot of people forget when they see the building. They love the windows, the way the concrete is around, the visual thing and everything. Everybody forgets the nuts and bolts and screws to keep it together.
Absolutely. I would be absolutely lost and nothing without Randy.
Absolutely. It's, I've tried to do certain things, just like having a beautiful cocktail drink without a glass.
Right.
It just ain't nothing like it. Now, Randy's done a wonderful job.
Absolutely. I'm going to just give a shout out to Ethan Tucker. Okay, we had Ethan Tucker on.
Yeah, Ethan's a great fella.
He was, and he was our second show, and we were just kind of starting to break our teeth a little bit and on things.
Yeah.
And he came in and was just so gracious, and he calls me. I'll never forget. He calls me. I think it was like 2 a.m. He must have been out having drinks with you or something. I don't know what was happening, but
No way.
Fuck! I look over.
He might have had one of his
right
spiritual things that he does.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd been in the studio all night, and I enjoy my weed, so I was pretty out of it at that point. I kind of roll over and I look, and I'm like, Ethan Tucker calling me? I love Ethan Tucker. I gotta answer. Would have been you, Randy. I'd fuck you. Anyway,
I'm used to it.
Right. So I answer, and he's like, dude, you gotta have this guy on your podcast. He's like, you gotta have this guy on your podcast. I'm like, and then he wants to talk because he's obviously had some cocktails or something. Right. And I'm like, Ethan, send me the fucking link, man.
I love it. That is fantastic.
So I just want to give my love to Ethan, and he's such a great soul, great musician.
Him and I are very tight.
Are you?
And I say this in I had no idea what him and I would blossom out to be.
Right.
This man, wherever he goes in this life, out of the blue, he just calls me,
Yeah.
And he was down in Wildwood, New Jersey, and I used to work on the boardwalk there in Wildwood.
Right.
I mean, I could tell you, I couldn't believe he was there, and him and I, we have a lot of soul with each other, and he's been in my home. My door's always open for him. Mm-hmm. It's very special, and in fact, this Saturday, the 27th of November, I'm having, it's called the Gobble Gobble Gathering. I'm inviting a few special people, and one of my chefs, Cindy's going to come, and we ordered all kinds of Cajun turkey, deep fried, and all this stuff from New Orleans. And anyway, I'm going to make sure he's invited to that. I mean, I can only meet so many people, invite so many people. But my townhouse isn't that big. But anyway, yeah, it's just he's a special man.
He really is. He's
got an energy. He's just energy. He's just. I don't even know. He's sitting here and talking to him, and he was just like, just cool, man.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
No, absolutely. Cool. And I think that's. Well, you guys know, I mean, that, as I was sharing with you, that cohesion thing, it's you can interview anybody. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you something right now, all right? Me and how I am being interviewed and what I'm putting out to you and what I'm putting out to the people who are going to be seeing this is just as important how I'm doing it, even though I'm invited to become the guest.
Right.
How I'm going to be and what I'm going to push out to the people is just as freaking important as how you're asking the questions, how you're listening, and how you're orchestrating your event.
Right.
Yeah, Ethan, that's why Ethan gets out there and does what he's done. I mean, he's played at my restaurant. you know, him and I go back a way. It's the same thing. He's got that kind of core, and that's why him and I are kind of tight. He knows that. I almost, in many ways, put him under my wing when it comes to money or it comes to getting his name known and everything. I don't want to see anybody ever walk all over him at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? Never.
Right.
I don't want to see that, and it can happen to anybody, man.
And I like to say about this show is that it's when we interview a guest, it becomes their show.
Yeah,
that's their show.
Yeah.
I'm just facilitating.
Some will do a better job than others.
Oh, trust me, we know.
That's that. You know,
anything's better than Eric. To be honest with you, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You don't need to be that way to me. I was your friend.
I was your friend.
You were my last one.
So I'm not going to go down the trail of holy shit, that was a powerful story and all that. It speaks for itself. There's no words that I can even express to make that story in any. I mean, just absolutely amazing.
I want to before we make whatever direction we're going after this, we come to an end, whatever it may be. I want to thank the Washington State Department of Services for the Blind Business Enterprise Program. Okay. All of the licensed blind entrepreneurs that go out there and give it what they've got. There's nothing like it. You're the best. Hell with the rest, and you know it, my friends, my brothers, sisters. I want to thank the staff of the Business Enterprise Program. Jim Hemming, thumbs up to you, my brother. Awesome. Elvis, there's nothing like it. And when it comes right down to it, you got to have that team. And, of course, none other than, and I always screw up his name and everything, Aura. And I think that's how we say it. He deals with all the bookwork and the money issues and everything. He does a fantastic job with everything as well. So it's just good people. And I want to thank all my fellow martial artists from coast to coast and around the world. I want to thank my beautiful children for the strength and all that they have inside to fight the good fight. And I hope that everybody in this world understands, you know, that darkness isn't something you see just because your eyes aren't working.
Right.
Darkness is what you see when you're not working, when you're not finding yourself.
Wow.
You know, and that's when there's darkness.
Your energy is infectious. I want to go take over the world right now, don't you, Randy?
I want to. He terrifies me, though.
Yeah, he terrifies you.
Can I hire you as a bodyguard?
Let me ask you a question, okay?
You bet.
Let me ask you one final question. I like to ask most of my guests. If you could have the whole world pay attention to you for just one sentence, 2-3 sentences, maybe a couple of minutes, the whole world turns and looks at Robert, and you have their attention, what would you say?
No pressure.
You ready? Here's what I would say. Thank you. Thank you for all the who and what you are in this world. And let's keep moving forward, people. Let's keep moving forward.
I love it. Robert, thank you so much for being here. We are Eric Scott Talks a Lot, program brought to you by Random and Reckless Entertainment, Brainstar Media. Use your brain, be a brainstar. Robert,
alive and kicking.
Alive and kicking. We had such a good time today. Thank you for sharing your story. It's so powerful. All right, rock and roll.